President Joe Biden lost his footing and stumbled down the steps of the Itsukushima Shrine as he ran late to meet with G7 leaders in Japan, RadarOnline.com has learned. Biden arrived in Hiroshima on Thursday for the anticipated global leadership meeting. Prior to boarding Air Force One, the Democrat president announced that the scheduled trip would be cut short so that he could get back to Washington, D.C. for debt ceiling negotiations before the June 1 default deadline. As Republican lawmakers criticized Biden's trip amid the debt negotiations time crunch, the president appeared overwhelmed when he arrived in Japan. The president was behind schedule on Friday. As fellow G7 leaders waited on the president for their tour of the Holy Shrine to start, Biden rushed to greet Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. While he hurried down the shrine steps, Biden tripped over himself and narrowly avoided a fall. President Joe Biden has 23 bank accounts holding between $250,000 to $1 million, White House disclosure reveals. Hunter Biden's ex says he's living lavishly in Malibu mansion while claiming to be destitute in child support war. Non-binary former Joe Biden official arrested for being a fugitive from justice, awaiting extradition hearing. Luckily for Biden, PM Kishida brushed off his misstep as if the blunder never occurred. Biden assumed his position alongside the fellow global leaders as they took in the shrine's marvelous floating gate. Never miss a story. Sign up for the RadarOnline.com newsletter to get your daily dose of dope. Daily. Breaking. Celebrity news. All free. The first day of the G7 summit concluded with a dinner that featured the heads of state from the US, Japan, Canada, France, Italy, Germany, the UK, and European Union. Biden had other plans for the ritzy private dinner, and he cut his time at the table short, so that he could receive a debt negotiation update from Washington, D.C. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre revealed that it was always the plan for Biden to leave the dinner early. Despite the claim, critics blamed Biden's stumble and inability to stay for the entire dinner on his age. Since Biden announced his campaign for a second term in the Oval Office, concerns about his age and cognitive abilities have grown. Last month, Biden appeared to dodge questions about his age, as he joked with reporters, "I can't even say the number, it doesn't register with me." After optimistic talk from both House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and President Joe Biden earlier this week, Representative Garrett Graves, who is leading debt ceiling talks for House Republicans, said Friday negotiations have hit a snag. "We decided to press pause because it's just not productive," Graves said as he emerged from a Capitol Hill meeting with White House negotiators. The development comes as time is quickly running out for lawmakers to find a debt ceiling compromise or risk default for the first time in history. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has warned the U.S. could run out of cash to pay all its bills as early as June 1, though the exact date remains uncertain. A key sticking point in the negotiations is spending caps, two sources familiar with the talks told ABC News senior congressional correspondent Rachel Scott. "Yesterday, I really felt we were at the location where I could see the path. The White House is just, look, we can't be spending more money next year. We have to spend less than we spent the year before. It's pretty easy," McCarthy said on Friday. More, McCarthy praises debt limit negotiators, but GOP hardliners say talks should stop. White House negotiators said they are playing it by ear when asked about the possibility of more meetings Friday and during the weekend. More, how U.S. national debt grew to its $31.4 trillion high. Despite the snag, a White House spokesperson insisted Friday a deal was still possible. A responsible, bipartisan budget agreement remains possible if both sides negotiate in good faith and recognize that neither side will get everything it wants, the spokesperson said. There are real differences between the parties on budget issues, and talks will be difficult. The president's team is working hard towards a reasonable bipartisan solution that can pass the House and the Senate. But Graves on Friday slammed the administration position as unreasonable. "Until people are willing to have reasonable conversations about how you can actually move forward and do the right thing, then we're not going to sit here and talk to ourselves," Graves added. The Louisiana Republican touted the save, limit, GROW Act that the House narrowly passed last month, which he said has great savings in it. And it's responsible and puts us on a path to bend the curve. The bill, which would block various White House priorities such as federal student debt cancellation and new funding for the IRS, has been deemed a non-starter by Democrats. The apparent breakdown comes after the White House late Thursday night touted steady progress following a phone call between President Biden, Office of Management and Budget Director Shalonda Young and counselor to the president Steve Ricchetti. The president's team informed him that steady progress is being made. The president directed his team to continue pressing forward for a bipartisan agreement and made clear the need to protect essential programs for hardworking Americans and the economic progress of the past 2 years as negotiations head into advanced stages, the White House tweeted. He remains confident that Congress will take necessary action to avoid default, the White House added. More, McCarthy praises debt limit negotiators, but GOP hardliners say talks should stop. McCarthy, too, seemed more optimistic Thursday than at any other point in the process as he said they were in a much better place than a week ago. But on Friday, he said there had to be movement over at the White House. He said he hadn't spoken to Biden, who was overseas meeting with G7 leaders. Timing remains critical as lawmakers stare down a fast-approaching deadline to lift or suspend the debt ceiling or risk a default. McCarthy said Thursday he believed a deal would need to be made in principle by this weekend in order for a bill to clear the House and Senate before June 1. Representative Patrick McHenry, Republican North Carolina, who was in the meeting with negotiators on Friday, told ABC News he doesn't know if a deal is possible by this weekend. "We're taking a pause," McHenry said. "We've taken a pause. And we have significant gaps that have to be bridged for us to merit more conversations." ABC News' Elizabeth Schulz contributed to this report. Update: Feinstein experienced complications from shingles virus. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office sought to discourage speculation that her family pressured Senator Dianne Feinstein to stay in the Senate after a nearly 3-month absence. Pelosi's eldest daughter, Nancy Corinne Prouda, has been by Feinstein's side daily as she returned to the Senate, the Chronicle first reported May 10. Prouda and Feinstein have been friends for more than 3 decades and Prouda has been supporting Feinstein in her recovery from the shingles virus, Pelosi's spokesperson Aaron Bennett said in a statement Thursday. Speaker Emerita Pelosi and Senator Feinstein have been friends since long before their service in Congress, and their friendship is personal, not political, Bennett said. Anyone who knows Senator Feinstein knows that her service in the Senate is entirely her own decision, and Speaker Emerita Pelosi would never suggest otherwise. Some news reports said the arrangement raised questions about whether Pelosi sought to keep Feinstein in her seat as a way to boost Representative Adam Schiff, who Pelosi has endorsed. Feinstein's absence from the Senate led members of her own party to call on her to resign. Nancy Corinne is a dear friend of Senator Feinstein's going back more than 40 years, Feinstein's spokesperson Adam Russell said in a statement. She has been spending time with the senator as she continues to recover from shingles. Schiff, D. Burbank, is one of 3 candidates running in a highly contested California primary to take Feinstein's seat in the Senate. Governor Gavin Newsom previously said he would appoint a black woman to fill Feinstein's seat if it became open. That promise has gotten more politically complicated with the ultra-competitive 2024 race to replace Feinstein underway. Only one of the top 3 candidates, Representative Barbara Lee, D. Oakland, is a black woman. Sending Lee to the Senate before the 2024 election would give her the tremendous advantage of incumbency over Representatives Katie Porter, D. Irvine, and Schiff. Reach Shira Stein, shira.stein@chronicle.com, Twitter @shiramstein.